Hey, welcome back to Woodruff Woods. Hey, today I took the day off. We are doing a little day trip here in Pennsylvania. Kind of last time the family would be together to do something like this, because Dallas is less than 2 weeks away from going to college. So we are headed out towards the lumber capital of the world, Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And then we're going to be headed up to Colton Point State Park, which is known as the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon. And then from there, we got about a 20-minute ride, and we're going to go out to the Pennsylvania Lumber Museum, which I did a video on that probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I wasn't really happy with the video, so I'm going to try to redo it and give it a little more effort. So hope you stick around and check this out. Hey, so we're here at Lumber Capital Log Yard near Williamsport, Pennsylvania. This is Ken. You may have seen him on that channel. And we just stopped by because it's right off of Route 15. And you want to talk a little bit about your channel, what you do on it? So I understand you started a business some time ago, just doing like tree trimming and that sort of thing, like residential stuff?
I did start 20 years ago with residential work.
Yeah, and how did you transition into, I mean, you've got a pretty big yard here.
I also logged at the same time. I had bought my first skidder, I think within 18 months of starting that business, and I had to choose between the two. Residential work made more sense, but I didn't like it.
Really?
So I like logging, and I went with where my heart was. I was 30 years old at the time, so you know, I just did what I wanted.
Right.
You know, I don't know that it was the right decision. I can't say that, but
well, it certainly seems.
You know,
like,
it's changed.
You know, I mean, you've got the lumber here, you've got the firewood here. It seems like you're really utilizing the product.
We don't waste a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that started with the residential work. You know, you have to remove the entire tree. And I didn't really have a blueprint. I didn't have a family background in it, like a lot of guys did with the logging and stuff. So I just sort of have my own recipe, and some of it works, some of it didn't.
Yeah, that's a neat story. I mean, it's self-made business, really. And how many cords of wood do you think you put out per year?
Not sure.
You're not sure?
Yes.
Because I mean, you've got quite a pile over there. I've got to believe that that pile's, I don't know, probably 40, 50 cord at least.
Yeah. That's not really representative. That's just for yard sales.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's so generally it just goes on the trailer. We have 2 trailers over here. They're already preloaded for delivery, and that's how we do it.
So you do mostly cordwood? Is that meaning large deliveries to people?
Yeah, that's our minimum deliveries of cord.
Yeah. So see, I kind of went the opposite way. I started doing smaller quantities.
Okay.
We do a lot of bundles.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're in a number of stores, and that's how ours kind of developed. Yeah. But with only us doing it, and we just upgraded to a commercial splitter.
Okay, good.
So
what are you using?
I'm using a Brute Force 2024.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, hey, I know you are a working man.
Yeah,
so
caught me here in the middle of it.
I caught you off guard just driving by, so I want to thank you for at least checking in on the channel and saying
I
hello.
haven't been looking at the camera. Emerald's always yelling at me. If I even said that on TV, she'd be mad at me. So if you want to edit me out, go ahead.
No, we won't edit you out. But I appreciate you taking a few minutes with us.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And I'll show you around here. It'll take a couple more minutes.
Okay, great. We'll take a look.
Yep. I semi-have it retired. We just load the firewood processor with it. And that's what I have here. These are all measured to length, which you see in our videos.
Right.
You know, so when we're running the bells, it's just we don't have cut-offs or anything.
So I do have one question for you.
Yeah,
what's your favorite chainsaw?
You know, we use the 390s, so they're big guns.
I have a 592 that I just recently got. Really like it. Really good.
I stick with the 390s.
Yeah.
They're still the old carburation
system.
Yeah. I love them.
Yeah.
I use a modified for felling, and it's neat.
Yeah.
This is the one log site here. 2 miles across. That's where the log's coming from, and then the hardwood is coming from the back side of that mountain.
Yeah.
So, and that's, you can see even up on top where it's a little thin.
Sure.
Where I've harvested, so I've harvested.
Do you have a crew that works with you, or just you? Really?
Just,
wow.
And I'd be in the woods today, but we've had the weather. So.
Yeah. Just making a mess at that point.
And that's what we're making our bundle wood out of.
So you use just poplar?
Just poplar. Any softwood.
Yeah. We're taking a tour of the wood yard here. Ken's showing us around. And so Ken, you have a solar kiln. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. I sort of did it just for fun. And it works. So we currently we're hoping to put in our own real kiln shortly. We're working on building one, but we do the cook wood in the solar kiln. We can easily get it down below 10% within a couple weeks this time of year anyhow, and just by default it's perfect. The sun is over here, rises in that saddle, and it goes down in the saddle over here, so it comes up directly across the building. So we have morning sun, afternoon sun, and early evening sun in it. The walls are painted black, so it absorbs the heat. We have solar fans running in there.
And would you say in just a couple of weeks you can get down to 10%?
Yeah,
wow.
10%. Yeah.
Wow.
You gotta remember, like, we're processing our wood, so we take time already. It's already seasoned.
Okay.
So we're not going in.
So you're going like from maybe 20 to 10, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's very neat.
It's for cookwood, so, you know, a bigger piece could have a little more moisture in it. We're not.
Sure.
We're just using a tong.
Yeah, sure.
You know, so
yep.
we're catching that outside. But
very neat.
It actually says 6% on when we
really
check it, but I would assume it's more than that. Yeah.
It's the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon. As you can see, it's nothing like the Grand Canyon out west, but carved out by glaciers probably 10,000 years ago, and left this creek, which continues to carve out the gorge. The Pennsylvania Lumber Museum. We are actually inside of a locomotive that was used to move lumber from up here in northern central Pennsylvania down to Williamsport, where all the mills were, and process the wood. As you can see, there's a lot of valves and levers and so on. The engineer would be sitting over here to my left. This would be the boiler, which ran the which heated the water for the steam. Kind of interesting to walk up in here and see all these old knobs and valves and stuff. And you know, that engineer was a busy guy over here when you look at those controls. Dallas is going to go up in the log loader. This would have been used to load the train cars at the yard. And as you can see, they had tongs they grabbed the log with. It's all cable run, steam engine. Are you getting up in there anytime soon?
You're not allowed to go in.
You're not allowed to go in?
It's just a railing.
Ah, well, so much for that idea, huh?
I could stand on these stairs, though.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll walk up there. And I will go on up into the log loader so that you can actually peek in here. As you can see, it was theme driven. You can see the very big winch and all of the control levers to move the cable. This would have been a log car that would have carried the logs out and been loaded by the log loader. As you can see, they used old rail, pieces of what appears to be oak. We're getting to the next part of this where this is like an old log town may have looked, an encampment, if you will. So as we go through, we will see the horse barn, we'll see the blacksmith, the guy who sharpened the saws. All of that is really important in the log encampment. So let's take a walk inside of here, and I believe this is where they would have kept the horses. We'll take a look at what they have. So we're entering the stable part of the barn at this point. And then inside of here, that's where the horses would have been. This is where our tools would have been. So the harnesses for the horses, any of the sleds and that type of thing. Understanding that most of the logging would have been happening in the fall into the winter. When the ground would freeze, that was the easiest time to move logs. So, you know, you'll see some things, and actually Dallas is standing right next to a sled that would have carried logs out of the woods, and behind her is another. So we're gonna enter the tack room, and Dallas is gonna follow me. This would have been where a lot of the tools were fixed. This is where maybe a blacksmith would have came in and helped with the shoes and maybe some of the wheels off of some of the equipment, as they had a metal band around the outside. So this was, you know, kind of a place where a carpenter or blacksmith or both would have worked to repair the equipment. So the saw filer, he was really important. He was the guy who would sharpen the teeth. And if anyone's ever tried to do this, there is an art to it. This was something that, you know, usually only one guy in the entire encampment would have been doing. So they would sharpen these teeth, take the rakers down, which most of us that use chainsaws understand what that means. But I'm going to step aside and see if Dallas can get a shot within there. They have an example of how that may have looked back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So the next place we're going to visit is the blacksmith house. And this is an area that's interesting to me because most of my ancestors were blacksmiths, at least on my father's side. So the blacksmith was really important. He made all the tools, he repaired the tools. He had a very important job in the community. And we have another exhibit here that they've set up to show what a typical blacksmith shop would look like. And as Dallas shows this to you, you'll notice some of the tools are very strange looking tools, but they were the ones that were used in the day. You know, there was a lot of hammering, a lot of heating, a lot of burning going on, but they really could shape metal and weld it together, and but it wasn't welding in the way we think of welding today. While most of the men would sleep in quarters, which we will get to that here shortly, the jobber was kind of the foreman or the manager of the crew. And he was the guy who would go out and he would get contracts with landowners to take their timber. He was the one that would assign people to crews and that sort of thing. So because of his important position, he was able to have his own quarters. And you can see they were not elaborate by any means. And the bunkhouses where most of the crew would have stayed. And these were really dismal conditions, often filled with lice. You know, the men didn't bathe very often. So it was not a really great environment, but they worked so many hours a day and so hard that most of them just passed out when they came home anyway. But let's take a walk in, we'll check it out. As you can see, the bunkhouse had general areas where people would gather. They would either eat here, they would play games in here. Whatever they did as a group would be done in here. And then usually off to the side is where they would be bunked, you know, literally in bunk beds. And they would spend the night there. Typically on Sundays was their day where they had some time to relax. They would be able to play some games. They may have a service. In this example, the bunkhouse is above the dining area. As you can see, there were some sharpening wheels, some places for people to play cards. The sharpening wheels, obviously, knives and axes and that sort of thing were critical. And if we walk into the actual bunk area, these were simply made out of timber, lumber that they were able to keep hold of. They would hang their clothes to dry, and obviously heated by wood. We were walking into the mess hall kitchen, and this is what a kitchen in a lumber encampment might have looked like. As you can see, they had to make meals for, you know, upwards of 100 people. And this would be a holding pond. So loggers would probably roll the logs off of something like that down over this hill into the pond, where they could be manipulated with various tools to get them up into the sawmill. Logs would be pulled up out of the pond here, up onto the table, and then moved into position to be sawed. You can see over on the other side the buzz saw. So as the logs got up here, they would just roll them down and slide them back and forth. You can actually see some very long peavies laying there as well. The underside of that sawmill was nothing but an engine and a bunch of belts and drives and pulleys to drive the sawmill. So about 35 years ago, I started college, and at that time, my father gave me something to put in my wallet. It was a $100 bill, and it has been in there ever since. And he told me that if I put this in my wallet and just held on to it, that, you know, if I ever had an emergency, I at least had some cash with me. So Dallas, since you were going off to college, I thought it was such a good idea. I'd like you to put that in your wallet.
Thank you, Dad. I appreciate that.
Hey, so that's going to wrap it up for Woodruff Woods today. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.